Number 10. Stuck in a refrigerator. A man who was attacked by a savage crocodile was discovered 12 hours later, hiding in the most unlikely place you can imagine. It all started when an electrician working in Jamaica decided to take a bit of an unscheduled break. He wanted to get away from work for a bit, so he went down to the beach for some rest and relaxation. According to what he told local news sources, he was bored at his desk and wanted some fresh air to wake up. He stepped into the water, and that was when the unthinkable happened. The crocodile grabbed one of his legs, and just as he screamed for help, it pulled him under the water. By some miracle, the electrician managed to get away from the crocodile before it could eat him completely. The victim, Nigel Gale, scrambled away from the crocodile and limped higher up the shore. He was in extremely rough shape. The crocodile had torn open his leg and Nigel was gushing blood. And much to his dismay, the crocodile was chasing him across the sand. Luckily, he happened upon an old refrigerator that had been discarded and managed to open the door and climb in just before the crocodile got to him. Once trapped in the refrigerator, he used his belt to stop his leg from bleeding. Next, he spent the whole night cowering inside the refrigerator, too scared to leave. Every time he thought about getting out, the crocodile came back and pushed at the refrigerator, trying to get at him. After 12 hours of terror, stuck in the fridge and bleeding like a stuck pig, a passerby finally showed up and saved him. This good Samaritan got Nigel to the hospital, but it was too late. He lost his leg, all of it, but at least he kept his life. Have you ever been up close and personal with a crocodile? Have you ever been bitten by one? I hope not, but let me know in the comments below. Number 9. Unpleasant experience at the Marriott. A guest at the Marriott Resort in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, recently complained after an unpleasant experience in which they saw someone almost get killed by a crocodile. The disgruntled guest even went so far as to leave a scalding 1-star review on the hotel's TripAdvisor page. According to the witness to this insane event, it was one of the scariest things they had ever experienced. What makes the story so bizarre is that the individual who wrote the poor review wasn't even the one who was attacked. They simply happened to witness an 18-year-old girl get dragged underwater by an angry crocodile as she screamed and fought for her life. The teen who was the real victim is Kiana Hummel from California. She was also vacationing at the resort when she had the nasty confrontation with the giant reptile. She had been going for a swim in the ocean when the croc appeared out of nowhere and tried to kill her. I mean, you're already afraid of sharks and jellyfish. Now you have to be afraid of crocodiles in the ocean too? Sheesh. In the review left by the angry guest, she wrote that the hotel room was clean enough and the staff and the food were excellent. However, she won't recommend the hotel to others because she had to save the young girl from being eaten by a 12-foot-long crocodile. She also said that had she not been sitting on the patio with her friends near the beach, the girl would have died. The eyewitness and her friends were actually the ones who saved Kiana from the terrible croc, staunching the bleeding themselves and screaming for an ambulance. They even stayed with the poor girl until help finally arrived. Kiana did survive, but it was an extremely traumatic experience for everyone. Number 8. Hurricane Ida crocodile. In 2021, Hurricane Ida devastated Louisiana. Not long after the destructive hurricane swept through the state and left millions of dollars in damage, a crocodile was found with a human body in its stomach. According to Pennsylvania News Today, local authorities finally identified the human remains that they took out of the croc's belly. Dr. Charles Preston, the coroner involved with the case, says the body belongs to Timothy Satali Sr., a 71-year-old man who was missing since August 30th, when he was attacked by a crocodile because of the floodwaters brought by the hurricane. His wife even saw the terrible incident unfold, running out of her house to see the crocodile biting her husband before vanishing back into the floodwaters. She used a small boat to reach the neighbors for help, but her husband was long gone. 2 weeks after Timothy went missing, local authorities bagged a giant crocodile over 12 feet long and over 500 pounds heavy. They were pretty sure this crocodile was a man-killer, so they euthanized it and opened up its stomach. Sure enough, there were the decomposing remains of Timothy Satali. However, it took a while to get a positive ID because the forensics team had to use DNA technology to match the human remains with Timothy's children. They got an 11-point match, confirming the dead man's identity. Number 7. Close call in Florida. In Florida, a very brave senior citizen saved her pet dog from being eaten alive by a crocodile. Susan Marchano, 74, was taking her dog for a walk along the lake in Bad Aronson Park back in August. Her little dog, named Naru, was learning how to play in the water. Susan had taken the dog off its leash and they were playing fetch when a black shadow came slithering through closer to them, just under the surface of the water. She realized immediately that it was a crocodile, about 6 foot long by the looks of things. By the time Susan's brain put all the pieces together, the crocodile was already trying to clamp down on her poor little dog. For an old woman, Susan moved pretty dang fast. She literally jumped in the water and grabbed the crocodile by its mouth, ripping its jaws apart to save her puppy. She was left with puncture wounds all across her hand, but at the time, she didn't care. She didn't even feel any pain. Her only concern was getting her dog out alive. Luckily, Susan had acted just in time. She got her dog free of the vicious reptile and rushed it to the animal emergency clinic. The dog had to undergo surgery for puncture wounds to her stomach and thighs, but she did survive, and all thanks to her brave owner. What would you do if you saw your dog being attacked by a crocodile? Do you think you would be brave enough to save it? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. We have all kinds of new videos coming up. Number 6. Feasting on the missing. A crocodile was recently discovered in India relaxing beside a local pond and munching on a dead guy who had gone missing a few days prior. Nobody knows if the crocodile was responsible for the man's disappearance or if it simply came across his remains and decided they looked tasty. Whatever the case, residents of the Raghuliya village were dismayed by the sight of the huge lizard eating one of their neighbors. According to Forest Officer Kundan Kumar, it was a farmer who first came upon the grisly scene, but he quickly pointed it out to the other villagers, and within minutes a crowd had formed. Somebody managed to get a hold of the forest rangers, who rushed in to deal with the crocodile. It turned out to be a mugger crocodile, a local species known for growing over 16.5 feet in length. Although they usually eat fish and other small reptiles, they do occasionally attack people. Britannica claims the mugger crocodile attacked at least 110 humans between 2008 and 2013, with 1/3 of the attacks being fatal. Although it is possible that the crocodile just kind of stumbled upon the corpse, the forest rangers are fairly certain it was the croc that did him in. Number 5. Trouble in South Carolina. In South Carolina, a woman needed to be rescued by her neighbor after one of the most violent crocodile attacks to ever happen in the state. According to a news release from the Hilton Head Island city government, the woman was walking her dog at the Hilton Head plantation when the incident occurred. It was just after 8 o'clock in the morning, and the lady had not expected a crocodile to be wide awake and waiting for its meal. It lurched out of the lagoon, snapped onto her leg, and then dragged her into the water. Thankfully, one of the woman's neighbors heard her screaming and ran down to the lagoon to see what all the commotion was about. He discovered the woman fighting the crocodile in the water like something out of a movie. Without even thinking about his own safety, the neighbor jumped into the water and tried to pull the victim out of the jaws of the reptile, but it just didn't work. Finally, another neighbor came to the rescue with a shovel. He battered the crocodile on the head until it finally let go. Only then did someone call 911. The woman had to be taken to the hospital in Savannah, Georgia. Even though she was seriously injured, doctors were able to save her life. City officials were quick to remind everyone to stay vigilant anytime they find themselves near a body of water, especially one known to be infested with crocodiles. Number 4. The crocodiles of World War II. The Ramree Island massacre of 1945 is to this very day the worst crocodile attack that's ever happened. It's actually in the Guinness Book of World Records as the deadliest crocodile attack in history. Here are the ghoulish details. It was 1945 and the Imperial Japanese Army was invading Asia, but unfortunately for them, just like Germany, they had chosen the entire world as their enemy. The Allied forces were coming at them from every angle. The soldiers who were fighting in Myanmar, back then known as Burma, had a choice to either surrender or die, or run through crocodile-infested waters. They chose the latter. They had been in control of the island since 1942, But now British troops arrived to kick them out. The British won an offensive against the Japanese forces, trapping them in an area of mangrove swamps. The Japanese tried to flee through the swamps, at which point they were assaulted by the crocodiles. In Myanmar, crocodiles can grow to be over 20 feet long and weigh 2,000 pounds. As the Japanese tried to push their way through the mangroves, the crocodiles picked them off one by one. Believe it or not, over 500 soldiers are estimated to have been eaten while they tried to flee, making easier work of the soldiers than the British troops. Number 3. Mauled in Australia. Speaking of soldiers and crocodiles, a young soldier in his 20s was swimming with a friend of his, also a soldier in Queensland, Australia, when the pair were viciously attacked by an angry crocodile. The two young men were swimming in the Lockhart River, a place known to be infested with crocs. The first soldier to get attacked suffered the most serious injuries, with the alligator trying to rip off his head and arms. He had serious lacerations to his face and upper torso, though the Army reported him in stable condition. Dennis O'Sullivan from the ambulance service said he was lucky to be alive, considering how much blood he had lost by the time the ambulance picked him up. As for his friend, he had jumped in to help, but the crocodile turned on him. He suffered injuries to his wrist and arm, but was also in stable condition. The Army refused to comment on why the two soldiers thought it was okay to go swimming in crocodile-infested waters. It could have been a silly show of machismo, or maybe they simply thought they were invincible. Clearly, to a crocodile, they looked delicious. Number 2. A bad vacation. A pair of twin sisters from England were almost killed on what could be described as the worst vacation ever. The two British women were recently recovering in the hospital after they got mauled by a crocodile while swimming in a Mexican lagoon on the Pacific coast. They were visiting the Manialtepec Lagoon in the state of Oaxaca near Puerto Escondido when the brutal attack occurred. The lagoon is known by locals for its beautiful mangroves, its murky water, and of course, its bloodthirsty crocs. The victims in this situation were Melissa and Georgia Laurie, both 28 years old. They had been traveling throughout Mexico while volunteering in different places. They were perfectly innocent girls just trying to explore the world. They had been taking a break from their adventures to cool off in the lagoon when a crocodile appeared out of nowhere, grabbed Melissa, and immediately dragged her under the water. Georgia jumped into action to try and save her sister, beating the reptile in its face and punching it with all her might. Unfortunately, the crocodile didn't really appreciate getting punched in the face. It then attacked Georgia. The only good thing is that it gave Melissa enough time to limp out of the water. Georgia managed to fight off the croc's attack on her own, and the two sisters were sent to the hospital after getting back on dry land. Georgia was released first, but Melissa had to stay in the hospital in critical condition because the crocodile bites got infected and she developed sepsis. Luckily, Melissa did go on to make a full recovery, but still the twins' vacation was already ruined. Number 1. Fishing trip gone wrong. Just like the British twins, a man in Australia had an extremely unpleasant vacation. It was just a short fishing trip, just a chance to unwind and take a break. Unfortunately, the police received a call from the fisherman's wife after he failed to return home. He couldn't be reached by radio. It was 2:30 in the morning, and he'd been gone for 12 hours. His wife feared the most. Sadly, her fears weren't completely unfounded. The police were quick to find his abandoned dinghy, flipped upside down near the mouth of the Gayunda Creek. In Australia, everywhere is probably the worst place to go fishing by yourself. The police were pretty sure that something terrible had happened, so they got together a search team and went looking for the missing man. What makes the story so tragic is that his body still hasn't been found. Nobody knows exactly what happened to him, although wildlife officials who inspected the boat say a crocodile was probably involved. His abandoned dinghy showed evidence of a crocodile attack, suggesting he may have been targeted by a giant reptile, flipped off his boat, and then dragged off to be eaten. And to make this theory even more sound, local residents have seen 13-foot crocodiles lurking around the area. The predator hasn't been caught, but officials are pretty sure they know what happened. Do you have a fear of crocodiles? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos like these. See you next time. Bye!